Hey guys, welcome back to Level 6 Math. It's Mr. C with Lesson 53 today from our Saxon Math. This is going to be two different concepts. They're both easy, so it's a quick lesson, but they're totally unrelated, so I don't know why they put these together. We're just going to go over our decimals chart. This is kind of a decimals review on what we should do, how we should set up our problems when we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. So that's the first part of the lesson. The second part is simplifying fractions. We're going to go through converting and reducing, or reducing and converting, and just practice that. This is really a review lesson. We've talked about all these concepts before. We just need to practice them because this is something that students really trip up on from time to time. So we're just going to practice it today. So let's start by looking at our chart here. This is in your book if you're using Saxon Math. You might print it out or make a copy if you want to have it handy. It is useful to look at this from time to time. So across the chart, we're looking at our operations: plus, minus, multiply, divide by a whole number, or divide by a decimal. So we're looking at a bunch of different ways of lining up decimals here. Now, if it's just adding or subtracting, we just line it up to add or subtract, and we just keep them lined up. And that's going to be most of the decimal problems we do will be simply adding or subtracting. So it's good to remember, just line up your decimals. That's a good practice. With multiplying, we can line up our decimals, and you can do that without counting, but it's really easier if you just count the number of decimal points in the factors and then add them together for the product. We've practiced this before, but it trips up a lot of students. If you remember, okay, we're only using one decimal point here and one here, but that's 1 plus 1 is 2. Then when we come down here, it's going to have 2 decimal points. So that doesn't line up. Now, can we do it and still line it up? Yeah, it's usually just extra steps. All right, when we're dividing by a whole number, we just want to line it up. So make sure you line it up by a whole number if you're dividing by that whole number. If you're dividing by a decimal, you want to remember the over, up method, which means simply multiply both the divisor and the dividend by 10. That shifts the decimal over 1, but you have to do it on both of these numbers. You shift it over one place, and then you line up your answer with the decimal there. And the reason for that is you don't want to have a decimal in the dividend, all right, or divisor, whatever that is. I always mess those up. But whatever this one is, you don't want a decimal there, okay? So you just fix that by going over, up. So again, this is just a review of how to take care of your decimals when you're doing different problems. We'll practice it a little bit today. The second part of this lesson is simplifying our fractions. We can do that by reducing the fractions to lowest terms and then converting to improper fractions, or we can convert first and then reduce. Let me show you an example of that. So if we have this, what we've learned is with adding fractions, we keep our denominators the same, so it's going to stay at 6, and we just do 4 plus 5. So we're going to get 9 6. Now when we have 9 6, we can see that there's a common factor in both of those. 3 goes into 9, 3 goes into 6, so we divide 9 divided by 3 is 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2, so we get 3 halves. And then so we've reduced first, then we can convert that 3 halves to 1 1/2, right? Because 2 halves plus 1 half is 3 halves. So we get 1 1/2. That's one way we can do it, is by reducing first. The other way is to convert first. So from 9 6, we can go ahead and say that's the same as 6 6 plus 3 6, which is 1 and 3 6. But then here we see that this can still reduce. 3 6 has a common factor of 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1, 6 divided by 3 is 2, so it reduced to 1 1/2. We're going to get the same answer either way. I personally prefer this first way, is always reduce first. When you're dealing with fractions and you can reduce, always reduce first and then convert it to a mixed number. But it works either way, so you can try it either way, whatever way you're comfortable with, and it should be fine. That's the whole lesson today. You're just going to practice doing both those things, lining up your decimals, trying different equations using decimals, and then practicing to reduce and convert mixed numbers. So that's it for today. Good luck.